G'day everyone, welcome to Northern Vibe. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's interview is a really good one. I spoke to a chap, David Cameron, who was yet another lead. Thank you very much to my listeners and former guests for putting in the leads. The more leads you give me, the better the interviews are. Please keep them coming in. I really appreciate the fact that I am getting so many leads. And of course, while I'm on that, please like, please share, please follow Northern Vibe on YouTube as well. YouTube, where YouTube is actually now starting to creep up a bit too. So I'm really appreciative of all the support I'm getting from everyone out there. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me, I suppose would be the best way of articulating it. Now about David, I've called this one Feeling Under Par is No Handicap. And that's because David Cameron is a former paramedic who lost 3 colleagues and a friend to suicide while he was a paramedic. He himself fell into a deep depression, but harnessed his love of sport and founded a company, Survivor Golf. He's since partnered with Kick On Charity to provide fun and family-friend golf format that utilises sport as healing, just bringing people together, and makes amateur golfers feel like professionals and gives back to the community. So anyone can and does participate in Survivor Golf. You don't have to have been a survivor or gone through anything traumatic. You just have to really like golf and have a golf handicap. I really like this interview. What I've done is I've edited it because the way it originally started off, I spoke to Dave and he just explained what Survivor Golf was at the beginning, and then he went into the story behind it. Now, me personally, I found the story behind it kind of moving and really touched me a bit. So I've took the time to edit that and put the explanation of what it is. Took the time to explain how and why he started up his company. And then at the end, we've got what Survivor Golf is. This is going to be a short one tonight, team. I think we're only going to be on for about 20 minutes, half an hour at the absolute max. So please watch this one to the end. I'll be putting the hyperlinks in the comments field. So if anyone's kind of really keen about that. But look, enough from me. I know it's Dave you want to hear about. So let's get this show on the road.
Look, the meaning of Survivor Golf, I'll take you behind the meaning of it, and that sort of leads me on to the Drew conversation. So myself, I was an ambulance paramedic for 12 and a half years, which was a great career. I went from Victoria to Queensland to Thursday Island and loved what I did. I worked quite closely with the last 3 years in the mental health space as an officer in charge. So I did do a lot of mental health training, which I really enjoyed. Towards the end of my ambulance career, I was exposed to quite a few nasty jobs and incidents and investigations through the ambulance service, which was really traumatic for myself. And I needed to find an exit out of the ambulance service. So to me, my 3 major passions are sport. I've played sport all my life at a competitive level, cricket, football, tennis, the media. Absolutely love the media. I've always wanted to be on the radio, which we're pursuing at the moment with this dream. But mental health, media, and sport has brought together Survivor Golf. So the 3 of my passions have brought together that name. And a lot of people usually go and find a backer and a financier. The first thing I launched was to pair up with a charity I believed in to be a major benefactor rather than Survivor be a benefactor. And that was me pairing up with Drew. I remember our first conversations clearly, and I hadn't met Drew. I knew of Drew through what he was doing in Cairns and his charity. We had some mutual friends, but again, that conversation started, what has golf got to do with charity and how do we benefit each other? And right now, 2 years later, hand in hand, we're working really closely together, and we've created such a vehicle for the exposure of talking about mental health, and obviously whatever format that is through these tournaments, we're finding people are sharing their story on camera, off camera, and reaching out to Kick On and sporting clubs on the back of what we're doing at Survivor Golf. So Drew and I have been working really closely together, charity golf days, exposing their programs as they roll out, be it the school programs, be it the new online training portal, reaching key figures of our sponsors. So Drew goes out and does a talk to some key figures in each of our sponsors, as you see behind us. That'll extend to the key staff workers and give multiple business opportunities and avenues to start the conversation around mental health. And look, it's really big to me. I had one of the reasons for exiting the ambulance. I lost 4 close friends very late that I was working with, 2 suicide through mental health. And that after the 4th one, that was enough for me to get out of the ambulance service. I'd seen enough, dealt closely with enough. I only had a friend 2 weeks ago through Survivor Golf. A close friend of ours unfortunately took his life. It would have been 10 days ago. Really dear friend to all of us here at Survivor Golf. I was only commenting on this today. We were out with one of the sponsors, and he would have been, Clayton, his name was, would have been absolutely overwhelmed to see 200, 250 people at his funeral. You know, I'm sure he would have expected a lot less. And, you know, it's really, really upsetting, and it's really, you know, it's devastating, but it also creates a lot of talking points. And in Clayton's honour, we're going to name the Kick On Charity Golf Day after him. Drew has given me permission to run with that. That'll happen in Port Douglas every year, and we're going to call it the Clayton Shield. Obviously, I'm quite emotional talking about it right now because it's still very raw, but we're going to put our foot down on this tournament and really expose what we're trying to do here at Survivor and Kick On with a Kick On Mental Health Charity Golf Day in Port Douglas every year. So I'll take a breath, Matt. I can talk about this all day, but it's really big on my heart. And for us to be able to, whether it changes 1 person, 10 people, 100, we don't want it to be taboo. We want it to be okay to talk about. And again, from 100 player fields, we're having at least 20 people per event, if not speak about it, follow up with myself and Drew, whether it's a brother, a son, a friend, you know, and we're getting people up that are telling speeches and telling stories where people wouldn't know how many people are suffering in silence. So it is really creating a nice vibe, and it's very special and close to my heart.
Well, kudos to you. Were those 4 people you lost, were they ambulance officers, or were they outside?
They were. They were all 4 in the ambulance service. All 4 in the ambulance service. So really tragic. 3 of those I worked closely with, and 1 was a friend that I did some study with growing up with, and all had various. A lot of them you couldn't see it coming, and a couple that were getting support at the time, and it's, you know, it became too much and too overwhelming. Unfortunately, they didn't have the avenues out, and that's what we're trying to provide with a lot of people. We're not trying to, again, we're not clinicians here in regards to this space and starting the conversation, but we're trying to provide extra avenues and just starting that conversation to make it a lot easier for everyone. Yeah,
a gateway into help. And I think for what it's worth, you have I think what you're doing is genuinely magnificent. Through a pandemic now, and it's a technical epidemic here, but like suicide has been a technical epidemic for absolutely years. I don't know. When I was talking to an epidemiologist on one of the early programs here, he goes, "No, suicide has been a technical epidemic for years." You know, so
this being obviously heavily involved in, you know, the ambulance industry for so many years, it was just unspoken and never spoke about and never reported and never recognised as such a significant problem. And I, you know, going back to when I first started, you would treat a lot of trauma. You would treat a lot of elderly nursing homes kind of jobs, alcohol. I mean, one of the sayings, you know, alcohol, drugs, and idiots, really. A lot of that point, but now, and your mental health jobs are probably 1 a day, and it was such sort of, you know, it was so compact. You know, your mental health, you put it in this little box. Whereas now, again, with the exposure of a lot of, you know, what we're doing in society, it's becoming so, it's so common and regular, and there's so many different conditions and ways about it. I think we're coming a lot better, but, you know, wind the clock forward 12 years and every 2nd or 3rd job would be a mental health job in the ambulance.
It's exactly what it was like. I've just come out of the Queen. I had 30 years in, and when I was sworn in the early 90s, again, it was like it was you know, going to a suicide as a sudden death wasn't uncommon, but it wasn't like a common cause of death, and it was like, you know, a big discussion point around the station. And but now, what in the police, what we call 504 jobs. So that's a person, that's the radio code when we're calling it out for a person who's going through, you know, mental distress. A 504 job is like a couple a day, you know what I mean? And the suicides are just way too many. Especially, I've got to say, I worked up the Cape, and disproportionately You know, I'm kind of like you. I actually can't. I could talk about it all day, but I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's it.
You just went to that many up there, and just all this human potential just being literally buried, you know, and these magnificent young people who just had so much potential, and watching them being lowered into the ground, there's nothing sadder. You know, I mean, kudos to you, mate. Like you're doing good. You're doing God's work.
Yeah. We play such a small role in not just kick on and the stuff we're doing, but like I said, after 12 years in the service, and you know, wanting to be able to send our message and do it through my three passions, it's really exciting, and I stand really proud now and tall, and I use the word resilience all the time. When all this was happening to myself and the exit out of the ambulance, I myself hit rock bottom, and I can speak from experience, and I speak at most tournaments, how important spreading the message to me is, because without a close family and without resilience, I wouldn't be here myself. And I got to that point where I was able to just sneak out of that tunnel, and did hit rock bottom, and a lot of people don't. And you know, if it's someone like me, if it's someone at every tournament that's well known to the town, you know, we're not necessarily chasing big name celebrities to these events, but we're chasing key figures of the town that can change a few people's mindset, you know. And if someone's really struggling, and someone they know speaks about, you know, if it's John or Tim or Lisa, you know, who tells her story about how they've been battling, and you wouldn't pick it, because a lot of the time you don't. And I mentioned the word silent fighters, something that creates this vehicle, and I'm always happy to speak about it. And I'm now, you know, I'm a really proud father. You know, it's to start this business. I don't think I've ever been happier. And you know, exciting times ahead. And I look back now, proud with resilience, but also very wary of how close it got, and the potential devastation around not being able to do what I'm doing now. And you know, hopefully that provides some hope for some people.
Like, it can hit anyone. It really can. Like, it doesn't matter who you are or where you are in society, but we know there's a couple of categories of people that are particularly vulnerable. You would, not only was it an epidemic, but you'd get these spates that were just so And of course, the emergency services. We all know that it's not me anymore, but the emergency services were at a high risk, and the military, of course. It's all these really, really concerning things that are happening in society. And I genuinely, I'm going to get an expert on one day, and I've got an idea of who I should get on, actually, to discuss what's happening in society. Like, you know, 30 years ago, it just wasn't. I mean, it was a concern, but it wasn't at the epidemic levels that it has been. And something.
Well, and in saying that, Matt, the exposure, the exposure that it's getting now, you know, a lot of people were so unaware of this before, and the fact we're now exposing this, it does prove how bad it's been for such a long period of time. So it would feel like it's gaining momentum, but it's been a really horrific stat for the last however many years we've been recording them. So it's just proving now how tragic this part of society really is.
Yeah, what's happening with us? There is something happening in Western society, because the stats are pretty consistent over the Anglosphere. Cool. But I've got to ask, mate, what's your handicap?
Actually, I'm happy to talk about this right now. +2 at the moment, so off +2. It's a shame. If I could putt properly, I might take golf a little bit more serious. I'm now doing a lot more corporate golf and actually playing tournaments. But we talk about mental health. I think I've got PTSD on the putting green. I don't actually want to walk up there and get on there. I'm afraid of it. And you know, even though golf is such a positive experience for your mental health, and spending 4 hours with friends and walking, it creates its own issues. But in all seriousness, no, +2 at the moment, and having fun when I get out there and have a hit. So and I'm on my home course, and where we're talking from now is Port Douglas, so Mirage Country Club. Got to give them a shout out. Jeff Peard and the team there have taken us on because of what we're doing. Not only do they give us an office here at Mirage Country Club, but they've made us the home of Survivor Golf for the next 3 years. So we get to bring back our final and host everyone from Mount Garnet to Barwon Heads to, you know, Mandurah in Perth. Get the experience to spend 2 nights at the Sheraton Mirage, and you know, get a proper tournament in front of the famous croc trap now. The last 3 holes here, so a tourist attraction that we're starting on the back of Survivor and Mirage. So yeah, exciting times up here at Port Douglas.
No, that's pretty cool. The only thing I've got to pull you up on there is, mate, when you say Mount Garnet, it's like anywhere in North or Western Queensland. I want to hear the echo through the nose. So it's like Garnet. It's like when I live in Winton.
Garnet.
It's like, yeah, Winton,
That's right.
mate. Like it's got to come, it's got to echo through the nose. Like that's
right. I'll say TI, not Thursday on.
Yeah,
and I'll
yeah.
say it slowly. I'll say it slowly in TI time. You'll have my response in about 3 days.
Yeah, actually, I did 2.5 years up there. I love the straight. So big shout out, big way to everyone up there as well. But
absolutely,
yeah, mate. Well, the thing I like about this is you've turned something that was kind of positive, negative, really, into something really, really positive. I would imagine, like, it wouldn't have been an easy transition going from ambulance off to this, and there would have been some other barriers and hurdles that you've jumped. Would you mind discussing that, both the personal ones and the practical ones and everything else as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, post ambulance, you search for answers, you search for finance, you search for money. What are we going to do next? It's not like there was a plan of attack to just pull up stumps and, survive a golf. You started your business 3 or 4 years, obviously, with the potential backing and support. So yeah, I was lost, and I spoke about that period of time in my life where I didn't know where to turn. But the support I had around me in Queensland and my family, we sort of, I remember a conversation I had with my now fiance, just sitting there, and what do you want to do, and what are your dreams, and what are your passions, and always had the mantra, put yourself first. And even though she's always put me first, it's really regenerated my love for the media and what I want to do. And look, like I said, it's all smiles at the moment, and it's going to be that way for a long time. And we do turn positive from negative. But yeah, there was look, it was a really tough couple of years, and it's we're not out of the woods yet, but it's the trajectory is definitely going up. And look, surrounding yourself with the right people. I remember drinking heavily, and I say drinking heavily. For me, it's not an alcoholism thing, but this was regular. This was 2 or 3 drinks a night, or and then all of a sudden you realise your lack of sleep. Then all of a sudden your lack of exercise, and look, I did one of the best things that I've ever done. On the back of that was I went and saw some psychologists and psychiatrists. It didn't click with a lot of people. I went and saw an EMDR therapist, rapid eye movement therapy, which is really recommended for PTSD and anxiety and depression. Her name is Jo Bartholomew, specialised in this area up in Cairns. And I started seeing Jo Bartholomew for 2 or 3 times a week. What an experience that was. It took 6 months to really get my head around it, and I continued that for about 3 years, and still see Jo to this day. And it borderlines on hypnotism. You're exhausted for 2 or 3 hours after it, but it's a cleanse of the mind, and it's a cleanse of the anxiety. And I would highly recommend it, and I do highly recommend this as an option for people looking for ways to deal with anxiety, depression, PTSD, or PTS, whatever we're calling it at this stage.
How did it take off, if you don't mind me asking, on obviously the financial side of things? Was there any issues with that? Like, you have to pay yourself a wage, sponsors, all these. Like, that would have been enough.
It is. It's a hurdle, and I think you mentioned it before, but look, there's obviously some kind of energy about me when I talk about Survivor Golf, so it's quite easy to go into meeting with prospective clients and sponsors to build something from the ground up. I don't need notes. I don't need to read off notes. I've built this thing from scratch. I know the back to front of what this can provide to potential investors, and what it can provide for sponsors, what they want to get out of it, about sharing the same message. So that was a slow build, but the first year we had a lot of local sponsors get on board, which is great. I spoke to we said with my business partner, said let's go big, let's shoot for the stars here, and we want to talk to what we saw the 3 biggest golfing brands in Australia, if not the world. And Drummond Golf is Australia's biggest golf retail store. TaylorMade is on the up, obviously sponsoring not only Tiger Woods, but have got the best new product, the best new clubs, the best new balls, and Adidas being such a unique and mainstream sporting brand worldwide. They've all got partnerships with each other, so we thought, let's give it a crack and start from the top. And I'll never forget the first meeting we had with Ravi, who is currently one of the bosses at Drummond Golf Australia. And look, thanks to Darren in Cairns, I set up the connection from the Cairns franchisees owner, Darren Golder, who works with us at Survivor Golf. Without Darren, we don't get the meeting with Ravi. Darren is a part of Survivor Golf, will always be a part of Survivor Golf. And I pitched him Survivor Golf. I pitched him our ideas. And, you know, I remember him saying on the back of it, we love your energies, put it in writing, we'll get back to you. We put a 3-year plan in place, came back to us and said, I'm not going to offer you this 3-year plan. Are you willing to take this tournament to Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane? It was a big call for us to say, let's keep it up here, and, you know, let's keep this tournament in Port Douglas, and with Ravi's support, let's really push the rural golfers, because whatever course you're at, you want to be using the best clubs. You want to be using, you know, you want to feel like a professional. You know, forget the money aspect of entering these tournaments. Over 600,000 golfers, you know, post-COVID now, amateurs, you've got 600, professionals, and then everyone wants to use the best clubs, the best balls, the best products, take it out there and give it to us. So we've almost got a traveling circus now with Drummond exposure, TaylorMade exposure, and Adidas. Ravi came back to us and basically offered us half our initial proposal. For us to sit down and take that offer, it was really, really exciting. We said, let's give it a crack. Let's have 3 years and try and get this thing off the ground. As soon as we signed with Drummond, you know, we had phone calls straight away from TaylorMade. I can't speak highly enough of TaylorMade supporting our product for our message. This is not with a database so young of, you know, 1,000 people, you know, these companies, that's all they look at, database, selling product. I can tell you right now that Drummond, TaylorMade and Adidas are backing us on our message and what we can potentially do in the future.
What is Survivor Golf?
An amateur golf tournament that is Australia-wide. We travel the country and we bring the winners back to Port Douglas to play in an amateur golf final. And it's built up over the last couple of years, and it's got to a point where the amateurs are treated like professionals, which is really exciting. So live scoring, live commentary, celebrities. And one of the big things that we do is we coincide with Kick On Mental Health Charity. So we raise money for mental health charity every tournament we go to. And we get to spread a message through the vehicle of our Survivor Golf tournament. So it's building and building as we go.
Does it differ from normal golf in any other way?
Yeah, it does. It's a slight twist on the traditional golf. So Survivor Golf is a 2-person Ambrose tournament. So whether it's your best mate, whether it's your son, whether it's your daughter, whether it's your wife, you must take 8 drives each, which really narrows the field in our scoring. There's never any blowouts, so it's a very even playing competitive golf field. So it's really exciting when you start a golf tournament knowing that anyone can win. So everyone's a chance. And then on saying that, there's also a prize on every hole. So if you're having a bad day, you basically get to start again and have an opportunity to win some cracking prizes given to us by our major sponsors. And I'll give them a plug now, but Drummond, TaylorMade and Adidas have jumped on board, and really excited to see where this can go and make this hopefully the biggest amateur golf tournament in Australia and if not beyond. So there is a slight twist. You are playing with a mate, a friend, and all the prizes we give out, they're not individual, they're for you and your partner. So even if you hit one in the water and your partner decides to hit one right next to the pin, you're both going to receive a prize. So something you get to talk about for the next few years.
Who can play in these tournaments?
Yeah, at this stage, anyone can play in these tournaments that have a Golf Australian handicap to qualify for Port Douglas. Now, if you don't have a handicap, you are still able to play in these tournaments to win these daily prizes, which is exciting. But unfortunately, you won't be able to qualify. So most golfers out there know, obviously, how to get their handicap and what it takes. For those that don't, looking to play Survivor Golf, it takes 3 rounds of golf and signing up with a club or a Social Golf Australian membership. Quite easy to get your handicap, which gives you a great barometer of how you're going on the golf course every time you go out and play. So yeah, anyone's able to play Survivor Golf unless you're a touring professional. So we have a lot of, even some touring professionals in Australia have asked us to play in this tournament because the prizes are so good. Ex-pros can play in this tournament, club pros. Unfortunately, they don't get out on the golf course enough. They're usually teaching lessons or teaching juniors, or they almost turn into retail salesmen. So our phone does ring hot from club pros, and yeah, they're playing these tournaments. And look, we've probably had 20 club pros play these tournaments, and not a single one of them has won. So it just proves the evenness of the competition. So it's exciting.
Thinking of pulling on the tweeds myself, but where are the tournaments played?
First of all, I think tweeds is something I haven't seen in Survivor Golf yet. I have seen some funny hats and some vests, but I haven't seen the tweeds yet. So feel free to bring them out when we come down to Brisbane. But one of the big things we do at Survivor Golf is we really attack the rural market of the smaller golf courses. Now, this is on the back of post-COVID. A lot of golf courses in North Queensland almost shut down. So we're really trying to target these courses to bring a function, The best thing about Survivor Golf is with your 100 players, so it's a 100-player field. Everyone's playing on the same surface, the same conditions, and they're playing for the tournament and what it brings. It's not necessarily to go and review the golf course. Everyone gets to play in the same conditions. So it's really exciting to go to courses like Weeper, Miller, places with 30 members, and we're filling out fields, and they get the taste of, again, this professional tournament, and we get to raise some money for that club as well. So we put a lot of money over the bar and reverse raffles and draws and all that stuff. So we try and make it a win-win for everyone. It's been a slow build, but we are tackling the 5th to 10 tier golf clubs rather than the major ones. But it's still a very it's a different way of looking at it, but we're open to any golf club that's available at this stage.
And there are these golf courses all over Queensland, really, that don't get a lot of love. I'm pretty sure there's a good one out at Mount Garnet as well that although I didn't play there, I had a few beers. And
the thing is, places like Mount Garnet, places like Miller, when we travel to Melbourne, we've had offers from about 15 different golf courses. Instead of playing at the city tracks, we're going to play one in the city, but then we'll head down to the Bellarine Peninsula. We'll play Clifton Springs. We won't play Bowen Heads. We're a small man. I'm running the show, but we like to keep it all in-house. So that's there's options of plenty coming forward. So it's good.
That's fantastic for these little regional areas because, again, it's a big win for them. They get people coming in, a bit of money across the bar, and a bit of love for the town. I think it's great being a North Queensland regional redneck.
It certainly does. It certainly does. I'll give you one example. So Innisfail, just quickly, we bring in food vans. So we attach local food vans, local media. We get to expose the town for what it is. I think they ended up making about $11,000, $12,000 on their bar for the weekend, which would out-trump the green fees and a few months worth of intake for the golf club. So it's an all chips in kind of effort, and coffee vans, and we even had a mobile bar set up by Kick On Charity, which was great. So yeah, exciting stuff.
Where can people access information about Survivor Golf, and how can they enter?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have an app, which we've had for a couple of years, but we are just in the process of transitioning over to a website, which will be available. It is available right now, but what the website is a template. So it will take you straight to our tournament draw. So that is live and active. So if you do type in www.survivorgolf.com.au, up comes the yearly calendar. In about 2 months, you'll have database, competition page, sponsors page, previous results for the last 2 years, and our calendar for the next 2 years. So that'll be our main go-to page. We do work closely with Golf Genius Australia that does the live scorings, again, which gives that professional element. But www.survivorgolf.com.au is where you head to enter any of these tournaments. And it's giving a lot of people, we have got a bit of a cult following at the moment. People travel to these tournaments, they meet new people at the tournaments, and then they'll plan a trip around the next event, whether that is, Magnetic Island, or whether that's, Bowen Heads in Victoria. So we are getting a lot of people follow us, which is great.
I've noticed that you guys are getting a bit of love. I'd seen some of the promo stuff come up before.
Yeah, and you'll see the calendar there. So if you just scroll down, it'll show nicely the calendar. On our Facebook page, we just had Channel 9 do a big interview on the weekend. So that's a perfect view there. So
fantastic. All right, and I'll be putting that into the feed at the end. And indeed, I already have. So if you have a look in the comments field, it's already there. And I've got to say, their Facebook page is definitely worth a view. The Channel 9 interview that Dave talks about is on their Facebook page. If you get on there and have a look, it's Dave weaving the magic in there. I found it a very entertaining interview, and it's probably worth having a look. But before we wind up, big shout out to the Ambos. I always had a great admiration working with the Queensland Ambulance Service, all the paramedics, ambulance officers, everyone else there. Comms Ops, you guys do an absolutely fantastic job. And it's terrible to hear that you had all those losses so quickly. So, the police were a sister service, and I'm out in the police now, but, we really respect what you guys did. Well, I can use the royal we. We really respected what you did. Now, just to go to show how much things changed, when I was in Smithfield, it was my last station. A lady came to the front counter to complain about the police not turning up in a timely fashion to a call to service, and it was totally reasonable. Like, I'm not mocking this lady. I'm not saying that she shouldn't have complained. There was a really, really, really long time, and it was a matter of concern, and it was something the police wanted to get to. But when we were explaining it to her that we went to 4 attempted suicides that day, initially she didn't believe us. It was like, no, and we were like, yeah, we broke out the evidence. We showed her the job logs and said, that's what the crews have been doing. So it just goes to show what anecdotally, what a real issue it is. So if you're feeling that way yourself, don't suffer in silence. Know that your life has meaning and point. You are loved, although you may not feel it in the depths of darkness. Make sure that you reach out and you understand that your life does have meaning and point. I've put some of the normal contacts in there, but don't forget your normal. Something that I think is undervalued are your normal support services. Turn to a loving family member, turn to a good friend. If you're a member of a church, synagogue, mosque, because I know I have quite a few Muslim viewers actually, so a good day to everyone at the mosque there. Don't hesitate to reach out to your spiritual leaders too. They can help or point you in the right direction if it's something that they can't assist with. So finally, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, I didn't receive anything from this interview. The reason I'm giving Survivor Golf a bit of a plug is because I think it's a great cause. I think it's great work, and I think it's a fantastic story because out of true darkness came light, and I think that's magnificent. Thank you so much for staying with us. Thank you so much for supporting, liking, sharing, and everything I get from Northern Vibe. Any guest suggestions, keep them flowing in. Any comments, put them in the screen, and I'll see you all next week. Thank you very much. Cheerios.